36 cars, 72 drivers, and just one mindset. Be the fastest. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Interlagos, the most important circuit in Brazil. We are about to start the qualifying sessions for the first round of the 2023 Porsche Cup C6 Bank Mastercard Endurance Series Championship, the 300 kilometers of Interlagos. In yesterday's practice, less than 1 second separated the best 13 Carrera Cup Porsches. Nelson Piquet Jr. was the fastest with the time of 1 minute 36.590. Well, let's get to business. My name is Sergio Lago, and I'm here with Carlos Costa. Hello, Carlos.
Hello, Sergio. A very big pleasure to be here with you to broadcast one more round of the Brazilian Porsche Cup Series. As you said, the first endurance series round of 2023. Big expectation for this weekend. We have today the qualifying session for both Carrera Cup and Sprint Challenge Championships. Of course, with the regular drivers, if you can say so, and their guests. Nelson Piquet Jr. is one of those. And of course, we are talking also about Interlagos, the race that receives, let's put it that way, the Brazilian F1 Grand Prix, so very well known worldwide. And of course, one of the most interesting racetracks that we have in Brazil, and also the most important for the Brazilian Porsche Cup Series. So the expectation is quite good. Let's see how the weather unfolds as well. And of course, the expectation is good in terms of competitiveness. Sorry, considering the level of grid that we have. Apart from Nelson Piquet Jr., Rubens Barrichello is also racing. Caio Collet, for example, Brazilian driver of the FIA Formula 3 World Championship. So the grid is very, very good. And of course, we can always expect good actions from actually the Brazilian Porsche Cup Series, especially in the endurance events, Sergio, because of course we have a very long race and sometimes we have some incidents and that kind of stuff. So, of course, I think we all can promise good things to happen this weekend at Interlagos with Porsche Brazil.
Yes, as a general rule, the cars will be driven by the regular Porsche Cup Sprint drivers who compete for the Sprint Championship during the year, and then they have their guesses. Of course, there are exceptions for this Endurance Championship because some drivers that don't compete in the regular season of the Sprint Championship are competing only in the endurance series. So we have some drivers that we won't see during the 6 races, the 6 events for the Sprint Championship, but some of them are there. So that's how it works. We will have 2 sessions for each Carrera Cup and Sprint Challenge. And in each session, one of the drivers will drive. And then, Carlos, the best time will be the combined time of the 2 drivers of each car. So this first session will not know who is going to be the pole position. We'll have a fastest driver, but we will only know the pole position in the second session of the Carrera cars. This is Marco Pisani, who is racing with Renan Guerra. He is in the Carrera rookie class. These 2 drivers, for example, Pisani doesn't compete in the regular sprint championship during the year, but we have there the detail for him. Carlos, and let's expect the results. This is always a very interesting qualifying.
Yeah, indeed. Always very competitive. Of course, we are in the very beginning of this qualifying session. You explained the format very well. And the key to success in this qualifying session of the endurance series that we have at Porsche Brazil is, of course, consistency with both of the drivers. As you said, we have Group 1 for one of the categories, then also Group 1 for the other category, and then both of the second groups for the categories, and then, of course, the average time will be the most important thing. But of course, if you have a very fast guest driver, it helps, but anyway, you have to be fast as well if you are the regular let's say, driver of the Sprint Championship in Porsche Brazil as well. But anyway, a lot of good duos. We talked about Piquet Jr. that is racing alongside Roman Gimkevich. And of course, there are other guys, the Barrichello brothers as well. It will be very nice to see this battle between famous drivers, drivers that are known only in Brazil. Of course, we are talking about very important series nationally, also in Latin America, of course, but some of you guys that are spectators to this Brazilian Porsche Cup series may not know some of the drivers, but anyway, we have the regulars such as Marcel Miller in the sprint championship, but it's a good level of grid overall. But it's a very special event when we have the endurance series because we have the big names that are known worldwide, such as Piquet Jr. and Barrichello, for example.
Yeah, right now, Carlos, we have the Carrera rookie class on the track, as we always have during our regular sprint championship. Of course, these are two separate championships, and actually Porsche Brazil has an overall championship that counts the points for both championships. So we have, besides the endurance champion and the sprint champion, we have an overall champion for each season. That's how it works. And during the regular season, or the sprint championship, we have separately drivers from each class going to the track. Now we see there number 555. It doesn't have any time. We have the 7 cars from the Carrera rookie class. And right now, number 15 with Leo Sanchez is ahead of all them. He will compete with Attila Abreu, who is a very accomplished Brazilian stock car driver, very well known in Brazil, but he will be in the second session for the Carrera rookie class.
Yeah, and just talking about other driver duos, I've mentioned the Barrichello brothers. Of course, we are talking about both of the sons of Rubens. They will be racing side by side in the car number 111. Rubens is being paired once more with Franco Giaffone in the car number 3. Caio Collet with Silvio de Barros. A lot of good drivers from Brazil that are racing abroad. Eduardo Barrichello is one of the cases, even though he's racing this year in the Stock Car Pro Series alongside his dad, actually in the same team, but has raced in Freca and other series. And of course, we have some of the duos that are already very accomplished in this series, such as Christian Hahn and Diego Nunes, for example, that have won the last endurance race that we had in Porsche Brazil. So the expectation is quite good in that matter. And of course, we tend to have faster lap times in the end of this first group of the qualifying session, Sergio.
Yeah, you mentioned Christian Hahn and Diego Nunes. They won with 181 points against 164 of Aldo Weisheimer and Enzo Elias. Aldo Weisheimer is not competing this year, but Enzo Elias is competing in the Endurance Series. He is not competing in the regular Porsche Sprint Championship because Enzo moved from Porsche to Brazilian stock car. But he was last year's champion. So that's a driver that we expect a very strong showing. And we were going to have the main race this Saturday, or the race, the 300 kilometers of Interlagos, this Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Brazilian time. It will be 7:30 p.m. GMT or 2:30 p.m. US Eastern time. So mark on your calendars, be sure to follow us. That's a very interesting race that we have every year here, the 3 races for the Brazilian Porsche Endurance Championship, Carlos.
Yeah, that's it. You mentioned the times of the races. That's very important. Of course, we all want you to be with us to broadcast the 300 kilometers race of Interlagos. And of course, once more, I highlight the situation and importance of the weather. So far, so good for this qualifying session. We have a cloudy weather at São Paulo this weekend. Let's wait and see for tomorrow as well, as we see one more, the car that is shared by Leo Sanchez and Attila Abreu crossing there the main straight and receiving the checkered flag. Let's check the lap times now because they will start to be very important since we have the end of this first session. And so far so good for Barros and Caio Collet. I think that's it. Yes, they are leading and with a good gap actually. Actually compared to Leo Sanchez and Attila Abreu that were leading this pack so far, Sergio.
Yes, and Caio Collet, who is going to get this car later on in this session, will be following all the sessions for the qualifying. He will be able to, for sure, make a good time. He's a very, although young, he's a very experienced driver. He's in, let's say, in the path for Formula One, right, Carlos? I mean, not necessarily he'll get there. Of course, we Brazilians hope he'll get there, but he's in the path to try to become a Formula One driver.
Yeah, that's it. Former member of the Alpine Academy driver roster. He's actually still associated with the manufacturer, as we see there, Nelson Piquet Jr. alongside Gaetano de Mauro. But Caio Collet is racing this year with the Van Amersfoort racing team at FIA Formula 3 World Championship. And of course, one of the most interesting prospects that we have in Brazil when we look to Formula One. We have Caio Collet, also Roberto Faria, and Gabriel Bortoleto in the Formula 3 Championship. Actually, Bortoleto is leading the season so far. And in Formula 2, we have Enzo Fittipaldi, that is a member of the Red Bull Junior team. But anyway, this grid specifically for the first round of the Endurance Series at Interlagos, it is interesting because it has a good mix of experienced drivers such as Gali Dosman that we saw on the screen there, and alongside Thiago Vivacqua, and of course a lot of young drivers such as Caio Collet and both of the Barrichello brothers. And the car number 555 has a penalty, losing the best lap of this first segment of qualifying, Sergio.
Yeah, and the reason, Carlos, it's kind of, I would say it's kind of fun, if not tragic. He left. Remember, I mentioned that we had 7 cars in the rookie class, and we had an 8th car that is from the sport class. So
Yes.
Eamon Darwich in the 555 went wrongly to the track. It was not his time to go to the track, and he went to the track, and that's why he's going to be penalized with his best time. It's a kind of, even though he's in the sport class, Carlos, with all due respect to Eamon Darwich, which we've seen him doing great racing in Porsche Cup Brazil, it was a rookie mistake.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, that's quite funny. A shame for Raimon. And as you said, a very aggressive driver, has had good races in this Brazilian Porsche Cup series. But as you said, a rookie mistake. It seems that he was a little bit off the beat there because he should know that it wasn't his time to go to the track. But anyway, he will have to be fast 2 times now, losing the fastest lap attempt in the qualifying session. We all know that he is a fast driver, but anyway, this qualifying session, it is indeed quite tricky because you have a lot of cars, and getting a good lap time, a good fast lap attempt there, it's quite difficult. And also because of the level of competitiveness of this grid. So he will be faced with a very interesting challenge, also because of this rookie mistake, as you said.
Yeah, he will drive with Ricardo Mauricio, which we know it's 3-time Brazilian champion in stock car. He's doing very well in this year's stock car. Of course, we only know the champion at the end of the year.
Season.
He leads the series, yes, you're right. So for sure, Ricardo Mauricio will be able to improve the time or help with this time. And now, Carlos, we have the cars for the Carrera Sport class, which are the strongest in the field. We have 13 Carrera Sport cars. So we have 6 overall Carrera, let's say the main drivers from Carrera, the main teams from the Carrera Cup. Then we have 13 Carrera Sport class cars and 7 Carrera rookie class cars. So this is by far the strongest group in terms of competitiveness and number of cars in the same class that we have this weekend. Of course, during the race, the competition is among everybody. So, for example, a Carrera rookie team might win the race overall. It can win, but we separate this because of the experience, the difference between the experience of the drivers overall in different categories, how much they competed, and etc.
Yeah, and it's always good to mention that this grades of driver duos, let's put it that way, they are of course done considering both of the drivers, the regular one and the guest drivers. Of course, Franco Giaffoni has Rubens Barrichello, for example, alongside him, and that's considered as well. But anyway, as you said, a lot of cars, the elite qualifying session, if you can say so, this Friday. and we can expect interesting things, but the traffic is already an issue. I was talking about how difficult it will be for Ayman and Ricardo Mauricio due to the penalty, and of course, with this number of cars, it's an extra a challenge for them because compared to the previous qualifying session, we have a lot of cars indeed. And let's wait and see because it's quite early still to get good lap times, but 20 cars on track. Anyway, it's not that exactly because some of these guys they have hit the track already, but anyway, 5 minutes to go, sorry, the clock is ticking and they have to be fast straight away because if they make a mistake or something like that, they have to do one more build up lap. And of course, heating the tires, that kind of thing, it is indeed very important.
Yeah, right now we have 13 cars. The From eighth to the back, they are the Carrera Sport cars. None of them had yet
Yeah,
set up a fast time. So the
the
top
blue
seven
tag
are
there.
already the blue tag. Yes, the green tag there are the drivers who already hit the track. They are the rookie class. They are already out. They are just waiting to see what these guys will do, and then what the main Carrera Cup guys will do, and then of course wait for the second session with the guests. So we still have lots to go, but we'll find out, Carlos, at the end of this transmission, who will be the pole position for the race tomorrow, which I have very high expectations, Carlos. There were some change of rules in the pit stop, so the pit stop strategy will have to be thought differently than it was before. There still will be 3 pit stops, but they are now set in specific times of the race. So strategy is always a good point. Of course, we can explain that, or you can, but for sure we will explain that tomorrow during our race transmission.
Yeah, we have the segment issue as well that is similar in a way to NASCAR racing. But anyway, we will explain this throughout the broadcast of this weekend. And of course, as you said, we have now the pit window uh, to make the pit stop. And of course, the strategy factor is very important, especially in an endurance race when sometimes you have a very different level of driving ability. With the guest and the regular driver. But anyway, one thing we have to highlight, Sergio, is the number of cars that we have in this event. A lot of cars indeed. And that's very nice to see because we are talking about one of the most well organized series of not just Brazil, I would say, but also Latin America. We sometimes have races abroad, as we have broadcast already, me and you, in Porsche Brazil, if I'm not wrong, Termas de Rio Honda round also of the endurance series last year. But anyway, a lot of cars and a lot of accomplished drivers as well. That's very nice to see. Big names such as Rubens and Nelson Piquet Jr. and also the regular ones of the Porsche Sprint Championship. That's very nice to see a full grid. And that's not just with the Carrera Championship, because in the Sprint Challenge Championship, we have a good number of cars as well, even though it's not that much compared to Carrera.
Right now we have number 8088 ahead of everybody. Everybody is Lineu Pires. It was Peter Ferter, number 66, 556, pardon me. But now we have Horta. So Fran Horta, number 77, Francisco Horta. We call him sometimes Fran Horta, but it's Francisco Horta right now is in second place. And then in third is the number, well, actually now we have Lucas Salles. Lucas Salles, who's being very fast in this year's sprint championship. Carlos now got the best time up to this point.
Yeah, that's it. As you said, Lucas has been one of the most competitive drivers of this class, the sport class of the main Carrera Cup championship. Sometimes actually fighting the guys from the main Carrera class, if you can say so. So that just shows how good as a driver he's getting. Of course, still evolving as a driver. The development path in the Brazilian Porsche Cup series is very nice to see, and Lucas is definitely one of the high points in that matter. He's still lacking a bit of luck, actually. I wouldn't even say consistency because he's already a consistent driver, but sometimes he's touched and that kind of thing that happens in motorsport. But anyway, a very good name to watch. Alongside a good driver as well, because we are talking about Rafael Suzuki that has raced abroad, Europe, Japan, and is one of the regulars of the Stock Car Pro Series as well. So the clock is ticking. Let's wait and see. We
Yeah,
already have one change.
go ahead. Lineu Pires, yes, exactly. I was
That's
going
it.
to jump in. Thank you. Lineu Pires got ahead of Lucas Salles. In third, we have Giorgio Frangulis in number 88. Frangulis, who is going to race with Cesar Ramos. Lineu Pires, who is ahead, is going to race with Beto Gressi. And Lucas Salles, he's going to race with Rafael Suzuki. That's a duo that we've seen for a while, Carlos. Lucas Salles always competing with Rafael Suzuki, who races in the Brazilian stock car, is also a very good driver. He's not a champion in Brazilian stock car, but he's a very good driver, a very interesting driver to watch, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. And with a lot of experience. That is the main thing, I would say. And he's the kind of driver that adapts to a different car straight away. We have seen him with a good performance already in the TCR South American Championship this year as well. And that just shows how good he is in terms of adapting to a new car. And Lineu Pires, Beto Gressi, as you said, Jorge Sringulis and Cesar Ramos, they are friends. So it's very nice to see this environment of Porsche Brazil as well. Let's see if we can have the audio of Renata Diniz, our pit reporter.
Até agora há pouco estava nublado, já choveu de manhã, aí agora tá sol. Então a gente se olha aqui, bota casaco, tira casaco, mas estamos aqui numa data muito especial também para a Porsche Cup, né? Esse ano comemorando 18 anos. A movimentação tá grande por aqui, né, Lu? Eu vou mostrando para vocês, vou falando com os pilotos ao longo do quali. Já já eu volto.
Yeah, we heard from Renata Diniz, our pit report, and she was highlighting actually the weather factor that is very important actually at Interlagos. She said that we had a slight rain earlier today. It was a bit cloudy prior to this qualifying session. Now the sun is shining a bit. She has the jacket there. Sometimes she wears it, sometimes she doesn't. Anyway, we try to check the weather forecast for tomorrow. Of course, tomorrow is the main day because we have the endurance race with a lot of people in the stands, a good attendance also inside the paddock. But anyway, we already have a good movement, if you can say so, in the paddock because there's a lot of people. There are journalists, that kind of stuff. And it's always a very well-organized event, the Endurance Series round at Interlagos. But the weather forecast is always an issue. I will try to check here quickly, Sergio.
Yeah, I know you're a local from São Paulo, Carlos, and you very well know that. Last year I've been over 35 times in São Paulo, and I could experience, this change of weather in São Paulo. It's really something crazy. We know it happens in some cities, but in São Paulo, I can tell you, it matches any other crazy city in terms of weather. Of course, there are others that match São Paulo, but it's incredible how this city works, which actually is a great city if you're outside of Brazil, just and have the means, just get into an airplane and come watch with us the race here in Interlagos tomorrow. It's just a flight away. So it's very, very interesting event. Now we see the main Carrera Cup cars waiting to launch. This is Nelson Piquet Jr. Again, the highlight on him. He is not, I believe, in the main Carrera Cup drivers. Of course, he's the caliber of a main Carrera Cup driver, but he's making a duo with Roman Zinkiewicz. And so as a duo, as
sport class
together, they are in the sport class. Exactly. And ahead here, we have the 544, a very strong team, I would say, Carlos, because it matches Marçal Miller and Enzo Elias. Marçal Miller is competing, I believe he's third in the sprint championship this year, and he was runner-up in last year's sprint championship for Porsche Cup, and Enzo Elias was the champion last year. So they are together now in this endeavor to compete for the Endurance Championship in 2023.
Well, I think that this information is enough to say that they are definitely one of the favorites. Of course, we are talking about a guy that is not a regular in Porsche Brazil anymore, that is Enzo Elias, but he was racing as a regular until the very end of last year, reigning champion of the Sprint Championship, and Marçal Miller, if I'm not wrong, he was the runner-up of the Sprint Championship.
So, yeah, he was, yes.
Yeah, so you can see how strong this driver duo is. I would dub them as favorites, but of course we have a lot of very good drivers and duels in this round as well. Nelson Piquet Jr., as you said, is one of the examples, but the consistency of both of the drivers in the car, it is very important in an endurance race, as we all know. So definitely Marcel Miller and Enzo Elias, they are guys to watch. And we were talking about the weather in São Paulo. Well, if you don't know the city, you that are watching us, you can remember the F1 races that we have in São Paulo, and that is quite frequent to have a lot of rain. I remember, for example, the 2016 Brazilian Grand Prix with a very good race from Max Verstappen in the rain. But anyway, I was just checking here, Sergio, and we don't have uh, big chances of rain tomorrow. The race is 3:30 p.m. in the Brazilian time here, and the chances of rain for this time is around 1%. So maybe in the morning we will have rain tomorrow, according to the weather forecast, but we don't have the expectation for rains in the 300 kilometers, that's it, of Sao Paulo. So a good situation, I would say, because me and you, we have broadcasted some races with rain, endurance races in Sao Paulo, and that's quite tricky, Sergio.
Yes, I agree. Even last year's, I believe it was the last race of the championship, right? In the endurance championship,
Yes.
we had we raced the the many last laps with yellow flags.
Bem
So we don't want
corriqueira,
to
bem
see that,
corriqueira, Luque.
and it's very competitive anyway. We don't need bad weather in São Paulo, in Interlagos, I would say, to have a competitive race. It's one of these racetracks that whatever the weather is, you have competitive races. While we see number 29 being driven by Rodrigo Melo, his partner will be Thiago Vivacqua. It's a novelty in the Brazilian Porsche Cup, Carlos. He's a Brazilian Portuguese driver, and he was, I believe, in DTM Trophy last year. He was fourth in the DTM Trophy Championship, and he'll be racing this year with Rodrigo Melo in the Endurance Championship.
Yeah, good partner there, Thiago Vivacqua. As you said, DTM Trophy driver last year with good results, as you said, and also has raced some rounds in the Stock Car Pro Series last year, if I'm not wrong. Maybe this year already, but anyway, a guy with a lot of international experience, a good level of competitiveness, and that just adds very well to Rodrigo Melo, that is also a competitive driver. But anyway, the challenge is not that easy, as we see Rubens Barrichello's car. That is actually
That's
their
his son,
kids, yeah,
his kids,
Eduardo
yes.
Barrichello and Fernando Barrichello. But Thiago Vivaco is definitely a good addition to this roster of drivers that we have in the Porsche Endurance Series race at Interlagos. And as you said, we don't need bad weather in Porsche Brazil in order to have good races. It's quite different from Formula One that needs rain to have Kevin Magnussen, for example, in pole position at Interlagos.
Yeah.
No, we always have a good level of competitiveness.
Yeah, I believe it's Fefo. Actually, it's Fefo Barrichello or Fernando Barrichello. We call him Fefo in Brazil. And he's driving the car now. And then his brother is Dudu Barrichello, is going to is going to do the second qualifying time, the other qualifying time. So let's wait and see where they fit. It's their first contact with a Porsche car in competition. So it's very interesting. They got Dudu Barrichello got the sixth best time yesterday in the practice yesterday. So I think they got a hold of the car. They are very, they have, let's say they have racing in their blood for sure, being the sons of Barrichello, of Ruben Barrichello. So let's wait. That's another team that I'm looking forward to see how they develop during the race tomorrow, Carlos.
Yeah, and that's nice to see, because Rubens has always said that he had the dream to race with his kids in an endurance race. Of course, he's been paired with Franco Giaffoni, but his kids, they are together, Fefo, sorry, and Dudu. Fefo is driving in the Formula 4 series of the United Arab Emirates, if I'm not wrong, this year. He has raced last year in the Brazilian Formula 4 Championship. And of course, about Eduardo, we don't have to talk that much. A former FRECA driver and now racing alongside his dad in the full-time sports team in the Brazilian Stock Car Pro Series. So it will be very interesting to see, especially Fernando's stint. He's less experienced, but Ruben says that he's very fast and he has had indeed good results in go-karts. But of course, he lacks the experience that both Rubens and Eduardo have, especially Rubens. We are talking about a guy actually that is in his 50s and winning championships such as he did last season in the Stock Car Pro Series. That is a very difficult category. But anyway, we are talking about a 11-time Grand Prix winner in Formula One, so we don't have to talk that much about his credentials, Sergio.
Yeah, we see there Marcel Miller. Let's see what is going to be his time. We have a little bit over 2 minutes to go, and this will be the last session for the first group of the Carrera Cup drivers. We've seen the rookie class, we've seen the sport class. This is the main class, and then we will have the challenge, and then we'll have again Carrera and then challenge. So Lineu Pires still leads, but we see Werner Neugebauer with the Porsche number 8 of the main Carrera Cup class in second place, but they still are going to be able to do another time, so we still have to wait. This is Alceu Feldman in this green Porsche, very beautiful green Porsche. Alceu Feldman, who has already victory this year in the championship, so he's doing really well in this year's sprint championship, and let's wait and see what happens. Yeah, I think this is a beautiful car. The livery, Carlos, I really like the way it is right now.
Yeah, traditional as well. It's always a good battle, if we can say so, in terms of liveries in this series. We have a lot of different liveries, a lot of colors, some that are more a little bit more traditional, such as the Tag Heuer livery there. This Farben is an interesting one as well, because Porsches with the yellow color, they are always interesting. And in the Sprint Challenge Championship, we have a lot of interesting liveries as well. So from time to time, actually the Porsche Cup Brazil social media, they promote some competition in that matter as well. Internet polls in order to define and choose the best livery of the season, and that's always very nice. This Brent livery of Miguel Paludo is very nice as well.
Yeah, you mentioned Farben. It's they manufacture paints, right, for paint for cars and other things, and they are one of the partners of Porsche Cup Brazil. This is Miguel Paludo. Brent is commemorating 70 years of existence. You see the number 70 on the back. So they have this special livery scheme. Last year the car was pretty much red. Now it has this silver part in the car. It's part of their scheme, and it's actually being used in NASCAR for Justin Allgaier, NASCAR Xfinity, who also competes under the sponsorship of Brand. And now we have again Marcel Miller. Right now he's the fastest car. Neugebauer is the second. Then we still have Lineu Pires of the sports class, and in third is fourth, is Fefo Barrichello with the number 11, the younger son of Rubens Barrichello. I believe he has only these two sons, right, Carlos? Or does he have any younger son than them? I believe these are the two.
Just these two. Just these two. Yeah. And you talked about Justin Allgaier. He has raced in Porsche Brazil already, if I'm not wrong, as a driver partner of Miguel Paludo. Miguel Paludo that sometimes races in the Xfinity series of NASCAR. So that's an interesting exchange, if you can say so, in terms of experience for Allgaier and Miguel Paludo. If I'm not wrong, the last time that Allgaier has raced in Porsche Brazil was 2019, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, Miguel Paludo right now is, I think he'll set the fourth time. It's not there yet, but he'll set the fourth time. Anyway, Fefo Barrichello is fourth, and then we have Lucas Salles. Lineu Pires is still among the top three. So great work so far by Lineu Pires staying there, even though, Carlos, in my lifetime, I have Marcel Miller, then Werner Neugebauer, Alceu Feldman, Miguel Paludo, Lineu Pires, Then Fefo Barrichello and Rodrigo Melo. These are the top 7 that I have there right now. And as if this is the case, Lineu Pires is the first from the sport class to be there at 5th, which anyway, it's very good. He's ahead of 2 of the Carrera Cup guys that are Fefo Barrichello and Rodrigo Melo.
Yeah, definitely a good result independently of the confirmation of the this final session of the Carrera Cup Championship. And of course, sometimes the live timing, it takes a while to update, but anyway, an interesting qualifying session. You've highlighted Lineu Pires. He is definitely one guy to highlight, and so far so good for Miller and Elias. Let's hear from Renata Diniz.
E por isso, a gente não poderia deixar de preparar uma homenagem mais do que especial para esse dia, para o aniversário do Autódromo de Interlagos. Então, a gente tem uma matéria muito legal. Roda aí.
Todos os dias, Interlagos desperta com o ronco dos motores. Essa é a rotina do bairro desde que o autódromo foi inaugurado, no dia 12 de maio de 1940. O circuito deu ao automobilismo brasileiro um lugar para se desenvolver e ajudou a lapidar talentos de renome internacional. Criou a estrutura perfeita para mais corridas e novas categorias. A história da Porsche Cup Brasil, por exemplo, está totalmente ligada ao Autódromo de Interlagos. Foi aqui que a categoria realizou sua primeira corrida. Em abril de 2005, 11 carros largaram para a prova inaugural do primeiro campeonato da Porsche nas Américas.
Interlagos eu acho que é importante, muito importante para a Porsche Cup. Primeiro a primeira largada, né? Então eu subi ali naquela torrezinha ali e vi a primeira largada da Porsche Cup. Você imagina a emoção. Parecia que era algo mais grandioso naquele momento, ou tão grandioso quanto hoje, 70 e poucos carros. Interlagos é responsável por muito desse sucesso, porque é aqui que tudo começou, é aqui que boa parte se desenvolveu, foi bastante trabalho, não só meu, mas dessa equipe maravilhosa que faz isso acontecer. Então é muito importante a gente poder ter esse, eu diria, templo aqui, para a gente poder desenvolver o nosso trabalho, né? Então, dizer que o Autódromo de Interlagos é um objeto de desejo de qualquer piloto, tenho certeza, qualquer piloto, qualquer equipe, ou às vezes até mesmo qualquer espectador que ama automobilismo. Interlagos é incrível pela sua totalidade. Ele é uma pista que você precisa ter um balanço muito bom nas freadas, mas também é um circuito que traz os tempos muito próximos. Então é uma prova muito aguerrida, é uma prova muito de disputa. Eu tive a honra de participar no circuito velho também. Então, quando eu passo aqui no S do Senna, eu ainda lembro passando ali longo na curva 1, onde eu podia acenar para minha avó, que tinha a casinha ali entre a curva 1 e a curva 2.
A Porsche Cup nunca ficou fora dessa festa. A categoria se apresenta todos os anos, desde 2005, como o evento preliminar da Fórmula 1 em São Paulo. Mas o que será que faz essa pista tão especial? Em seus 18 anos de história, a Porsche Cup já correu 197 vezes em Interlagos. O maior vencedor é Miguel Paludo, que já ganhou 19 vezes.
Interlagos, desde a minha primeira participação, há vários anos atrás, até minha última vitória, ano passado, aqui no GP de Fórmula 1, sempre me trouxe várias alegrias. É uma pista que eu encaixei desde as primeiras voltas aqui, então toda vez que eu volto para Interlagos tem um sentimento muito especial como piloto, e ter 19 vitórias aqui com certeza faz com que eu goste ainda mais dessa pista que está no topo da minha lista de favoritos.
E agora, quem será o próximo a comemorar uma vitória no mítico circuito de Interlagos? A resposta só na bandeirada.
Yeah, very nice video there about Interlagos. The racetrack is completing 83 years in 2023, and Porsche Brasil is completing 18 years in 2023, racing at Interlagos from the very beginning of the series. Actually, the first race of Porsche Brasil was held in this track in 2005, actually. So that's a very nice shared story, if you can say so. We heard from Denner Pires, the CEO of Porsche Brazil, about the importance of Interlagos to the series. Of course, the Porsche Brazil Championship is, of course, every year in the Interlagos track. The Brazilian Porsche Brazil Series is the Brazilian Porsche Cup Series, sorry, is located in Brazil, quite close to the Interlagos track, actually. And we heard also from Rubens Barrichello.
Podem falar que são irmãos,
He
né?
was-
Loirinhos, de olho claro,
Let's
tá
just hear
fácil
from Renata
aqui.
Diniz.
Marcel Miller, Enzo Elias. Já começamos muito bem o final de semana. Hoje é aniversário do Autódromo de Interlagos e a gente estava falando que legal, já temos um novo recorde e agora batido por você dessa temporada. Feliz, Marcel?
Muito feliz, começamos com o pé direito, né? Foi uma boa volta e até estranho torcer pro Enzo bem no final de semana, nós que era sempre adversários, mas eu acho que a dupla está se dando muito bem, estamos trocando bastante informação, a gente conseguiu evoluir muito nos treinos e tenho certeza agora que o Enzo é só fazer o que sabe, que ele vai muito bem no Qualify, mesmo se nós não conseguir a pole na média, nós estamos muito confiantes para a corrida, que com 300 km é o que vale.
Sensacional, de adversários agora para parceiros. Enzo Elias, que participou nas corridas de sprint até agora como coach e agora está vindo como dupla do Marcel para acelerar junto. Tá feliz, Enzo?
Tô feliz, como o Marcel falou, é a primeira vez que ele fica em primeiro e eu comemoro, mas não, a parceria está muito boa, a gente está fazendo um grande trabalho aqui dentro, a gente se encaixou muito bem, o Marcel fez um grande trabalho no primeiro classificatório e é isso, jogou a responsabilidade no meu colo, a gente tem um bom carro, sabemos disso, tô confortável com o carro, eu acho que a gente não perde, né, igual andar de bicicleta. Então o conforto está aí, espero poder encaixar no classificatório e começar o campeonato de Endurance com o pé direito.
Isso aí, a gente vai ficar aqui de olho. Obrigada, dupla. Dupla de peso, hein? Literalmente de peso, viu, Luke?
Yeah, nice chat there with Marcel Miller and Enzo Elias. Marcel has been the fastest in his session now. Enzo Elias has to have a good pace there in order to maintain a good average. And even if they don't get the pole position, Marcel said that they are confident for the race. And of course, Enzo was highlighting the fact that he's still comfortable with the car. Has raced very recently with these Porsche cars. They are the same from the 2022 championship, and they were joking a bit about the fact that they are celebrating each other's good performances. They have always been rivals in this series, and now they are partnering for this 300 kilometers race at Interlagos. Just returning to the video about the racetrack, Rubens was highlighting why it's such a challenging circuit, and of course highlighting the fact also that he has raced in the old layout of the Brazilian circuit prior to 1991 if I'm not wrong, anyway, prior to the reform that was made and established, for example, the Senna S's. And actually his grandmother used to live quite close to the circuit, so he jokes that he used to wave goodbye for his grandmother when he was racing in the old layout. And Miguel Paludo was also talking about Interlagos. He's the guy that has most 19 wins. Yeah, 19 wins.
Exactly, yeah, 19, yeah.
The guy that has won more races of the Brazilian Porsche Cup Series at Interlagos, highlighting, of course, the track. And an interesting information, Sergio. In the first race that we had in 2005, we had 11 cars. So far, the category has had, let me check, close to 400 drivers throughout its history. So you can see the development of the category, the job that is very well done by the CEO, Denner Pires, in the series. And this weekend we will have the race number 198 just at Interlagos of Porsche Brazil. So that's very nice to see how shared the history of the racetrack and the series, and the fact that also Porsche Brazil is the support series of the F1 Grand Prix
Deixa eu
since
aproveitar que vocês estão falando de layout de carros, que a gente teve uma coisa muito inédita acontecendo aqui. Na terça-feira, o vídeo vai sair amanhã, então vocês têm que ficar de olho no que vai acontecer, mas vejam um novo layout do carro do Alceu Feldman com o Guilherme Salas, da Tag Heuer. Olha só, você que está assistindo aí, dá para acreditar, esse carro foi pintado à mão aqui no autódromo. Então, essa é a arte e o artista está aqui do meu lado. Adonis, conta como foi essa concepção de vocês fazerem tudo isso aqui no autódromo.
Renatinha, foi muito legal, foi um prazer enorme, porque eu tenho uma paixão muito grande por carro, por Porsche, por relógio, pela Tag Heuer, e a inspiração para fazer esse carro foi justamente isso, a velocidade, a emoção, o tempo. Então as setas significam isso, o caminho do vento, a velocidade, o tempo, né? As entradas de ar, saída de ar. Então essa foi a minha inspiração.
Olha só que demais, dá para ver as setas aqui na lateral, que elas fazem exatamente o movimento do ar, né?
Exatamente, então tem as entradas de ar, as saídas de ar, então essa é a relação que eu faço com o carro, a velocidade e o tempo, né? Porque a Tag Heuer é uma marca mundialmente conhecida de relógio e essa foi a minha inspiração.
Sensacional, e nosso patrocinador aqui, eu adorei, eu já gostava do carro da Tag, mas agora com a tua arte, assim, bom, já sou fã do seu trabalho, Adonis, já sou muito fã, quando eu soube que você fez aqui ao vivo, no autódromo, melhor ainda. Obrigada e parabéns, viu?
Muito obrigado, eu só posso agradecer vocês, todo o pessoal da Cup, da Tag, para mim é uma felicidade enorme e um orgulho poder ver esse carro na pista.
E pra gente também, né, ver um carro, uma obra de arte dessa na pista, muito sensacional, e amanhã a gente vai conferir o vídeo do making of, viu, Luke?
Yeah, nice interview there with Adonis Alcisi. He's actually an artist, and this Tag Heuer car of Alceu Feldman, it was hand painted by Adonis. So a very nice action of the Tag Heuer, that is the sponsor of Alceu. And tomorrow we will have the video of the making of this painting. So it will be very nice to see. And it was indeed a very good livery. It is actually. We're just joking about how interesting the liveries of this series they are, Sergio. One more factor to like them.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I'll confess to you that I didn't know about that. And remember, I said I really like that livery. You know, I mentioned to you, it's really beautiful. It's great work by him. Great work. I'm really impressed. Right now, Carlos, we are at the end of the second session for the Carrera Cup rookie class drivers. And ahead of all them is Caio Collet with the Porsche number 0. So they should get the pole for the rookie class. Of course, the pole for the Carrera rookie class will start in the middle of the field or closer to the end of the field, probably in the middle of the field, because we have the challenge, sprint challenge cars as well. But great work, because Silvio de Barros was the fastest among the rookie class in the first section, and now Caio Collet is being the fastest among the guest drivers in the rookie class. So well done by this car number 0, while you see number 25 that's being driven by Galidio Osman. He partners with Paulo Souza, who is a regular in the Porsche Cup Sprint Championship.
Yeah, and we saw that Galidio Osman jumped a bit that sausage curb there. But anyway, we have to highlight Caio Collet as well. Also Silvio de Barros, but he's an experienced driver in this series, even though he's not racing in the Sprint Championship in 2023. But anyway, he knows the car.
It's true, yeah.
But for Caio Collet is also a challenge, Sergio, because he's used to race in the Formula 3 cars, single-seaters, lighter cars, different reactions. So, of course, he has raced in Porsche Brasil already, if I'm not wrong, in the All-Star race prior to the Formula 1 Grand Prix, but it is indeed always a challenge, because it's a completely different car, and so far so good for the driving duo there. A good partnership between Silvio de Barros and Caio Collet. Good result also for Galidio Osman, and now Attila Abreu snatching the second spot in this session.
Yeah, it's actually right about Silvio. I forgot he was not competing this year, because we've seen him during so many years before that. But this year he's not competing, at least so far in the Sprint Championship. We had already 2 rounds. Now we see ahead of these cars Alain Kodair in the Porsche number 16. Blau Pharmaceutica is a company that manufactures medicine, right? And it's his main sponsor in the Brazilian stock car, and he also races under Blau sponsorship in the Porsche Cup in the Endurance Series. So it'll be interesting to see he partners with Marcelo Ram. We see
An interesting fact there, Sergio. He's wearing the overall of the Van Amersfoort racing team that he represents in the Formula 3 Championship. So he brings the same overall for this Porsche race. Caio Collet, that is, as we said, one of the most interesting prospects of Brazilian motorsport when we think about Formula One, of course. Caio Collet, Roberto Faria, Gabriel Bortoleto, and Enzo Fittipaldi.
Yeah, Gabriel Bortoleto is the one who, I mean, all the other drivers, of course, have potential to grow in the sport, but Bortoleto is really doing really well this year so far. Let's hope. I like that number 5 there. The car is actually number 0, but they have that number 5 from Speed Racer, right? I believe. So Silvio de Barros always had this number in his cars. So that's interesting.
Yeah, even with the number 0, he sticks to the tradition of the 5. That is a very traditional layout in the Brazilian Porsche Cup Series, even though he's not racing in the Sprint Championship. But that's a similar situation to Enzo Elias one. Of course, he's not racing regularly, but in a way, he's one of the regulars of the series, Sergio.
Yes, we see the detail there for Caio Collet performance. So it was really good. He was the fastest. Then Attila Abreu was second. Galido Osman was third. Renan Guerra fourth. Renan Pizzi fifth. Then Bragantini was sixth, and Sang Joaquin was seventh place. These are the drivers who are competing, the second drivers to get to these cars of the Carreira.
Vamos falar então, com a primeira pole já definida do dia nesse quali.
Renata.
Silvio de Barros voltou e voltou com tudo, né?
Nossa, demais, né? Que bom. Foi uma volta incrível do cara, eu tô aprendendo muito com ele aqui, né? E, porra, melhor volta de todos. E a gente tá uma dupla competitiva, não só na categoria, como na geral.
É isso, porque depende do resultado das duplas, né, Caio?
O Silvão tá andando muito, desde os treinos, tá rápido, evoluiu bastante. Fiquei bem contente com a volta também, o carro tá muito bom. Vamos pra cima amanhã.
Isso, obrigada, parabéns. Luque.
Yeah, we heard there from Silvio de Barros and Caio Collet. Silvio was celebrating the fact that he was able to be fast straight away in his return to the Brazilian Porsche Cup Series, and also highlighting the fact that he's learning with Caio, and of course Caio's raw speed. Collet was able to get a very good lap time there, adding to the average that Silvio had started. So good result for them, pole position, and they say that they are very optimistic for the race, not just in their class, but in the main Carreira championship. Of course, they are from the inferior, let's put it that way, class, but anyway, they have the potential to climb the pack throughout the 300 kilometers race that we'll have tomorrow. And of course, we will have to wait the averages of this rest of the cars, because sometimes they have an issue, and Silvio and Caio, they can outperform them in terms of qualifying position. But anyway, a very good result so far.
Yes, and Caio Collet's time was 1:34.895, which was really, really great, I would say. It was an incredible time. I believe it was the best time so far, actually, Carlos, in these two sessions. He was faster than Marcel Miller.
It was.
So Marcel Miller ran at 1:35.515, and so he was 0.6 of a second faster than Marcel Miller. So incredible work by Caio Collet.
Actually, Silvio de Barros was highlighting this fact specifically. Of course, we are talking about Caio Collet, so we have to respect him, if we can say so. Even though he's not adapted to racing these Porsche cars, he's a very accomplished driver. Runner-up of the Formula Renault Euro Cup, if I'm not wrong, then racing in the Formula 3 for the last 2 seasons, counting this one. So even though he's struggling a bit in the start of the season of the FIA Formula 3 Championship, he's a very talented driver, and that's why he's associated with the Alpine Academy. So that's something that we could expect. But anyway, he exceeded the expectations, given the fact that he was fastest overall. But let's wait and see for the second group of cars of the sport class and the main carrera class as well.
Yes, you have to wait. Now we have back to the track the 13 Carrera Sport class cars, of course, with different drivers as a general rule with the guests. Because sometimes we can see a regular here in one of the as a second driver, but the general rule that are the guests. It happens to have a regular driver when we have the first driver who is sometimes also a regular, because sometimes two regular drivers partner to compete in the regular sprint championship, Porsche championship cars. They partner to race together in the endurance series. That's why.
Luke.
We see number 16, which is with
Eu já tava olhando para isso, mas eu falei, vamos esperar um pouquinho que pode ventar,
Renata.
vai limpar, vai abrir, a gente nunca sabe. Mas essa nuvem tá carregada mesmo e tá chegando mais perto.
Well, I don't think I have to translate that much when we see
yeah, no.
the size of the cloud there, Sergio.
Yes, she was getting our attention to that, Carlos, which might be a factor, you know. It drives us crazy, and I'm sure it doesn't drive us crazy. I would say it drives the direction of the race, the race directors crazy, because if it rains, for example, they have to take many decisions, you know. If they stop the cars at certain point to change the tires, if the track is good enough to stay with the slick tires, and you know, this all affects the drivers. And actually, Carlos, let's say, I don't think it will. Let's hope it's not going to rain at this point. But if it starts raining, and the drivers of, for example, the main Carrera Cup, the guests have to set their times during rainy time, they're not going to start ahead of the pack. They're going to start behind, so that might change things a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, they have to be very fast in that interval between this group of cars of the sport class and then the main Carrera class drivers, so that they finish the qualifying session prior to an eventual rain. And we have to remember that we have the Sprint Challenge qualifying session as well. Less cars, but anyway, it might rain in the qualifying session of the Sprint Challenge championship. Of course, let me check here. We have less cars, 10 cars if I'm not wrong. Yeah, that's it. But anyway, we have two sessions because 10 regular drivers and 10 guest drivers. So a lot of time still for the qualifying sessions that we have this Friday, and that's certainly a concern. But for the Carrera Cup qualifying session, I think it won't be an issue.
That's Ruben Barrichello driving Porsche number 3. He partners with Franco Giaffoni. Carlos Costa mentioned that before, and right now Rubens is in the car. He's driving Porsche number 3. We always expect very good performances by Rubens Barrichello. We don't need to talk about his curriculum, what he did in Formula 1. He raced in Formula 1 Indy, and currently he races in the Brazilian stock car. So Ruben, and he's been already a champion. So let's see. And number 87 is being driven by Nicolas Costa, who is also a very fast driver. Nicolas Costa, he is doing really well. He is competing in this year's championship, in the sprint championship this year, and he's doing very well, Carlos.
And that's nice because his route, if you can say so, is the Endurance Series Championship. He comes from the Endurance Series Championship to the Sprint Championship this year in Porsche Brazil, but now returning to this route, if you can say so. And it will be nice to see. And of course, very good performance from him, as you said, in this beginning of season. We had 2 races so far. Even though he didn't have such a good round at Velocità, we have to remember that he didn't race at that track previously. So first experience for him in the Mogi Guaçu circuit. But anyway, in Interlagos, he had a very good round in the opener, the season opener that we had in São Paulo.
Yeah, he won the first race. He started from the pole and won the first race of the year in Interlagos. In the second race, he finished 3rd, so it was a very good result as well. Actually, he left Interlagos as the championship leader, but then he had to abandon in the second race at Velocitar, and that's why he sits in fourth right now in the sprint championship. Anyway, it's a driver we have to pay attention. Number 77, we have William Freire. Then in number 88, we have Beto Grassi. These are the drivers. Right now we have 13 drivers on the track. Right now, Silvio and Collet are ahead of everybody, but let's wait and see what these drivers will do. That's Beto Grassi. I have the images highlighting him, the number 888. He is in 7th right now, overall among the second drivers. We still have Collet as the fastest one, who competed in the rookie class, and Beto Grassi is going back to the pits. And that's Nelson Piquet Jr. Pardon me, go ahead, Carlos. That's Nelson Piquet.
I was just going to highlight the engines of these cars because we had a moment of silence there, but we could hear the roar of the engines. Of course, it's a very powerful car, especially the Carrera Cup 1. The car can reach 460 horsepower. It's a new car, actually. It started... in the beginning of last year's championship, if I'm not wrong, this 991 car that we have in this Carrera Cup championship, the 0.2 car that replaced the point. Actually, it is the new one that replaces the 0.2 car, and the older car is used in the Sprint Challenge Championship. That is also very powerful, 450 horsepower. In terms of engine, it is very similar, but of course the technology is a bit different. And these cars of the Carrera Cup Championship, they are a little bit more powerful. And the Sprint Trophy Championship that is new to the organization this year, they use the older cars from the Sprint Challenge Championship. So it is also nice to see that they are always using all of their cars. So no cars are being parked in the garage of Porsche Brasil at Jurubatuba. But anyway, we saw there Beto Grassi, a good performance. The driver that is partnering with Lineu Pires that also had a good performance in the previous qualifying session, Sergio.
Yeah, Nelson Piquet Jr. did the third best time among this group. Fastest was still, among this group, he was the second fastest. But Caio Collet is still the fastest, even though he went in the rookie group. We have to highlight and remember, Carlos, that the cars are the same. So what sets up the difference between the rookie class, the sport class, and the main Carrera Cup category are the drivers. So it's not the cars. So I would say it's no surprise that Caio Collet gets the best time, even though he's in the rookie class. He's in the rookie class because of Silvio Barros, not because of him, Caio Collet himself. Anyway, that was a very good time. I'm glad to see Nicolas Costa in second too. He's a very young talent. I see lots of future in him. And of course, Nelson Piquet Jr. is a driver that we know his curriculum. He's very fast. He likes racing, Carlos. He races
eles não param de falar aqui, ó. Lineu Pires e Beto Grassi garantiram a pole na categoria esporte. E aí, o mais legal de tudo, quando o Lineu voltou da pista, eu entrei aqui no box para falar com ele. O Betinho estava concentrado na TV, só olhando um board e tal. Eu falei, Lineu, o que está acontecendo? Ele está querendo ver se ele vai mexer alguma coisa no carro ou não. Cheguei aqui agora que eles garantiram a pole e perguntei, mexeu no carro ou não mexeu? Betinho respondeu o quê?
Pior que não. Tava muito bom já aquela hora, mas a gente tem que estar o tempo todo atento. Lineu, um garoto, começou comigo andando com os carros de rua na pista e um prazer poder dividir o carro com ele. O mérito dessa pole com certeza é dele, porque ele fez um baita de um quali, para quem acompanhou, colocou 3,5 décimos no Lucas Salles, o que acabou facilitando um pouquinho a minha vida também e tem colocado uma pressão danada para cima de mim. Então a gente tem que fazer a lição de casa, por isso que a gente fica lá olhando on-board para poder observar como está a pista, o que melhorou, para a gente poder evoluir e aproveitar ao máximo.
É bom chegar nesse momento, né, Lineu Pires? Que agora é você que bota a pressão nele, não mais ele em você.
Exato, a gente conseguiu um puta tempo no começo, Aí a pressão não, porque eu sabia que o Beto com pressão ele lida fácil. Então eu já confiava desde que ele saiu daqui, que a gente saiu uma boa volta. E a gente conseguiu a segunda fila na geral e primeira na categoria, tá ótimo.
Cara, você é muito focado na evolução, né? Tá sempre buscando mais e mais.
Sim, é o meu terceiro ano ainda de corrida, de automobilismo, então eu tô treinando todo dia, toda semana no kart, para tentar sempre evoluir, para um dia, quem sabe, chegar na geral e conseguir ganhar.
É isso, Lineu. Parabéns, meninos. Luque, com você aí.
Yeah, we heard there from the pole sitters of the sport class of the Carrera Cup Championship, Lineu Pires and Beto Gressi. They didn't outperform Caio Collet, but anyway, as you said, the ranking of the classes they are done considering the both of the drivers. So that's what you said, Sergio. That's because of Silvio de Barros that Caio Collet is racing in the rookie class. But anyway, Beto Gressi was highlighting Lineu Pires' performance. Actually, he's racing alongside Lineu Pires since the beginning of Lineu's career, when he was used to racing street cars at Interlagos. But anyway, very interesting performance there from the driving duo, because Pires set a very good lap time in the first qualifying segment there, actually more than 3/10 faster than Lucas Salles, as Beto highlighted, and that just showed how good the car was, even though Beto Gressi was always looking to the onboard camera in order to check if the setup of the car was okay. But anyway, Beto was also able to have a good lap time there, and success for them so far.
Yeah, it's interesting because Beto Gressi was eighth overall among the sport class, ninth overall, considering Collet was ahead of them. But if we count with the time of Lineu Pires, that's what got them the pole position for the sport class, because Lineu Pires was really fast. Now we see the car number 544 with Enzo Elias, last year's Porsche Sprint Championship, and he was actually, I didn't mention before, Carlos, he was the endurance champion of 2021. So he has history. He's part of Porsche Cup Brazil history driver Enzo Elias. And then 111, we have, of course, the other of the Barrichello brothers, who is Dudu Barrichello. Dudu Barrichello right now is driving the car 111.
Yeah, they are showing Rubens' car there, if I'm not wrong. It will be an emotional moment for Rubens when he checks the replay of this qualifying session, and especially tomorrow, the race. Rubens, that I highlight once more, is the partner of Franco Giaffone in the car number 3. But anyway, Renata Diniz, our pit reporter, is calling once more.
Isso, eu vim confirmar exatamente isso. O do Werner e do Zonta não tem nada, tá original. Só os outros que estão identificados. Fica mais fácil pra gente mesmo.
Yeah, she was talking about Werner Norgbauer and Ricardo Zonta's car, but I didn't get what was the chat between Renata and our Brazilian broadcasters. But anyway, the car seems to be okay.
Right now, number 1 is being driven by Guilherme Salas. He partners with Alceu Feldman. Beautiful paint scheme. Behind there, we have number 7. The red car is being driven by Alan Hellmeister. Miguel Paludo, who changed partners this year, at least for this first race. Carlos, last year he raced with Denis Dirani, but this year, at least in this race, Denis Dirani is not participating, and he's racing, Miguel Paludo is racing with Alan Hellmeister.
A good partner as well. Alan Hellmeister has a lot of experience internationally, actually. By the way, he had a very strong accident in 2019, if I'm not wrong. That was a very difficult moment of his career, a very long recovery, and it's always nice to see Alan Hellmeister racing. The recovery was complete, and now he's back to his driving standards that are very high, as we see there Alceu Feldman cheering for his partner in the car number 1, the Tag Heuer livery, the green livery that we have there, that is currently being driven by Guilherme Salas, also a Stock Car Pro Series driver, and this driver duo comes from last year as well, if I'm not wrong.
I'm curious to see how the Carrera Cup gases will fare among this group of guests, because right now it's a very, very strong group. Like we said, we have the first top places. We have Caio Collet, Nicolas Costa, Nelson Piquet Jr., and Rubens Barrichello. And none of them is in the main Carrera Cup class for this race. So I'm very curious to see what these drivers will do. It's going to be for sure challenging for them. Right now, the best is Salas with the 10th best time, car number 1, Guilherme Salas.
And Salas
Go ahead.
is having a good season in the Stock Car Pro Series Championship. A very young driver still, but already very competitive and with some experience. He's racing in the stock cars for the last 3 years or 4, if I'm not wrong. But anyway, a former Stock Light champion as well. So it's a very interesting driver, and it's a nice partnership there, because also Feldman is one of the most experienced drivers in this grid overall. So experienced driver, a standard regular driver of the Porsche Cup Brazil Championship, alongside a good prospect of the Brazilian motorsport, that is Guilherme Salas. These driver duos, they are very interesting in the Porsche Endurance Series, Sergio.
Yeah, we have less than 1 minute to the end of this last session of the Carrera Cup group. And we have there in the 544, it's Enzo Elias, and there is Dudu Barrichello. Let's wait. So far, they are not ahead, but I'm sure they're doing their fast laps now. We should see the main Carrera Cup going up there, even though the best is still Salas, Guilherme Salas, in the 9th position overall for this group. Of course, you have to remember their times will be combined with the first group. So this is not determines the pole position at this point. It doesn't determine any position. We have to do the sum and then find out with the average of the sum and see who is going to be the duo who start first in the race. This Saturday starting at 3:30 p.m. Brazilian time, 2:30 p.m. US Eastern time, or 7:30 p.m. GMT. So be sure to stay with us here to follow this first race of the 2023 Brazilian Porsche Cup Endurance Championship.
And you were anxious for the performance of the guest drivers of the main Carrera Cup class. So far, they are lacking a bit, Sergio.
Yeah, that's incredible. Look at let's see if they improve. Last passage by the Nicolas. Enzo Elias didn't improve. Elias went to 6th place, so he improved, but he's still 6th. He's still 6th. Carlos, it's incredible. Let's see how the other drivers will fare. That's Rubens, of course, Barrichello with FIFO. They are waiting for their son and brother to finish. It was not bad, Carlos, among the second group of Carrera Cup drivers, main Carrera Cup. Let's see if any of them still has a fast lap. They might have, but we'll have to wait, Carlos.
Yeah, so far, as you said, P6 for Enzo Elias. Thinking about the average, that's not a bad lap time, because Marcel Miller got a good result in the other qualifying segment. So they might have a good result there. Considering the class, it's quite obvious, but I think about the overall grid, because the positions are set considering the average time independently of the class of the duo. So they are already celebrating, but you can see that Marcel Miller is a bit thoughtful there, to say the least.
Yeah, he was the fastest in the first session. So I think they have reason to believe they might get this pole position. Let's see. Let's wait and see. There's nothing certain yet. Of course, we'll have the information, but that's interesting. They are going to the pits already, so normal. There it is. They have the pole position, Carlos, for the race tomorrow.
Yeah, it took a while, but he can celebrate with Enzo as well. right now. It will be nice to see the celebration as well, because they talked about that in the interview with Renato Diniz. It is the first time that they cheer for each other, former rivals, in both the Sprint Championship and the Endurance Series events of Porsche Brazil, but now side by side with the same car, number 544. And not that good from Enzo Elias, but we have to remember that he's not racing full-time in Porsche Brazil this year, so it was an okay performance, if you can say so. But Marcel Miller had a very good lap time in the first qualifying segment there of the duel, and now they can celebrate a nice and strong lineup of drivers there, thinking about the race tomorrow, 300-kilometer race. Consistency will be key to a race win, and they definitely are guys to watch for tomorrow.
Yeah, I would say we have to consider, Carlos, that Enzo Elias was 6th overall in the second session, but he was behind, among other drivers, Caio Collet, Nelson Piquet Jr., and Ruben Barrichello. And the other two drivers were Rafael Suzuki, very experienced stock car Brazilian driver, and then Nicolas Costa. So it was a very, very good time for him.
Tô chegando,
So,
tô chegando. Deixa eu entrar aqui no meio
let's
dessa
listen to
dupla.
Renata.
Que eu falei agora há pouquinho,
Yeah,
né?
there she is.
Agora você veio aqui abraçar. Quando você imaginava isso? Abraçar o Enzo Elias?
Não, muito bom, o Enzo está de parabéns, fez uma baita volta, levando em consideração aí que nós estamos levando bastante peso. Então, estou muito feliz com o meu classificatório, com o resultado dele, e agora é focar para a gente tentar buscar a vitória amanhã.
Tá vendo, Luke? Era isso que eu tava falando. Uma dupla de peso, por isso, porque estão levando muito peso com toda essa experiência aqui. Parabéns, Enzo Elias, para fechar com chave de ouro que o Marcel abriu, enfim, trabalho em equipe.
Não, com certeza. Estou muito feliz com o meu trabalho dentro do carro, com o trabalho do Marçal e tudo que a gente tem feito aqui. Foi P1 no grupo, então isso mostra, tanto no meu quanto no dele, isso mostra que a gente tá muito competitivo. Faltou tá mais levinho aí, caminhar um pouquinho mais, mas isso faz parte do jogo, é assim para todo mundo. Eu estava na situação contrária no ano passado, então estou muito feliz com o nosso trabalho. A gente vai largar em sexto e eu tenho certeza que no ritmo de corrida a gente tem tudo para poder brigar por essa vitória.
É isso, só que não para por aí não. Agora a gente vai andar um pouquinho, que eu tenho um presente para vocês aqui. A gente vai fazer nossa mini cerimônia para poder entregar troféu. A gente já começa o final de semana assim com troféu. Olha só, um para cada um, troféu móvel, pole position, Enzo Elias, Marcel Miller, parabéns. Abrindo com tudo essa primeira etapa da Endurance. Muito bom, parabéns meninos. Luke?
Yeah, nice interview there with Marçal and Enzo. And we were forgetting one important thing, Sergio, the balance of performance regulations that give extra weight to their cars specifically, both driven by both Miller and Elias, and why they have extra weight to their cars. We are talking about the ranking of the drivers according to the Porsche Cup Brazil regulations. We have the reigning champion, actually, of the Sprint Championship. Marcel Miller is one of the most accomplished drivers, so they have extra weight to their cars. And that was a factor,
não, é que eu tava falando pro Enzo, que eu também deixei passar essa informação que ele falou. Ele falou, não, foi mal. Vamos corrigir então, né, Enzo?
Foi mal, pessoal. Troquei as informações, a tela me confundiu um pouco, mas é isso aí. Pole position não tem lugar melhor, lugar de honra.
Isso, valeu. Luke.
Yeah, an amendment there by Enzo Elias. He said that they were going to start P6, but no, they start P1. Their average gives them the first spot on the grid, considering the fastest lap time of Enzo and Marcel Miller. But your consideration was very important as well, Sergio. Beaten by Caio Collet, we are talking about him from the very beginning of the broadcast. Nicolas Costa, that has roots in these endurance events in Porsche Brazil, racing very well in the Sprint Championship season for the first time. Piquet Jr., we don't have to talk that much about him. Barrichello as well, and Rafael Suzuki, that is also a rival of Enzo Elias in the 2023 season of the Stock Car Pro Series. As we see the replay of the first race start of Porsche Brazil at Interlagos back in 2005. A long time ago already, sir.
Oh yeah, a beautiful race. Now we see it along the years, and we have to praise a great effort by Daniel Pires, Carlos, who is the person behind all this evolution of Porsche Cup Brazil. He's the force behind it. He's the guy who made it happen. And if you see those very beginnings with just a few cars and we see what it is today, you can see how great work he has done along the way.
Yeah, definitely a great work, and of course, in this event in Interlagos, he was highlighting how important the circuit is for the series, but also we have to remember how important the series is for Interlagos as well, because even though we have the Brazilian Grand Prix at São Paulo, of course, the rest of the year has to be filled with races, and Porsche Brazil always has a lot of races per year in this circuit. So Daniel Pires is important both in the story of the history actually of the class, the category, sorry, Porsche Brazil, and also for the story, the history of Interlagos, one of the most accomplished and most important actually racetracks that we have in Brazil, by far I would say. So that's very nice to see. And also when we see the replays of these race starts throughout the years, it's nice to see the different layouts of the cars, the old Porsches and the new Porsches. I have to say that my favorite one is the first one that we saw from 2005.
Yeah, it was a beautiful car, no doubt about it.
Very classical.
Very classical, exactly. But it's nice to see the evolution of the Porsche race cars along these years. It's a very, very nice history. And now we have the challenge, Group A. So these are the guests. No, these are the regular drivers from the Sprint Challenge. In Sprint Challenge, Carlos, we have a smaller field. We have a total of 10 Sprint Challenge competitors. It will be 1 for the main Sprint Challenge category, 2 for the sport class, and 7 for the rookie class. So, and even though you might say, oh, there are a lot of less cars, it's important as well, and it adds to the importance of having these two different categories of cars or class of cars competing together in the racetrack. And we will have a total of 36 cars, which is incredible. It makes me excited, waiting for tomorrow to see how the race will be in Interlagos, the first endurance race for this 2023 year.
Yeah, definitely. We certainly can expect an action-packed 300 kilometers race, because with this number of cars, the traffic will be an issue throughout the whole race tomorrow, this Saturday. So it will be nice to see. And as you said, it is indeed very important to have another championship, another car, which is also a tradition in endurance races. We always have different types of cars, even though it's in both of the cases Porsche cars, but different cars. We have the 992 and in this Sprint Challenge Championship the 991-2, and already an issue, Sergio.
Problems with Célio Brasil. Célio Brasil, that's it for him. That's it for him. Too bad. Célio Brasil having this problem. It's a very Brazilian livery there that he chose with the Brazilian flag colors, yellow, blue, and green. I think that's it for him, Carlos. I don't know. I don't even know if Danilo Dirani, who raced with him, will be able to hit the track after that. Well, yeah. They will have time, maybe. They might have time. So
not that much time, but there's still time enough. If the issue is only the puncture there, but they have to check suspension and the axle there as well. As it seems, the bodywork obviously has a lot of damage there, but if they are able to pull the car to the pit lane and check everything, maybe we will see this car once more in the track. But anyway, that's a shame. And it seems that it was a quite random puncture there, because I didn't see any incident that could prompt this puncture, Sergio. I don't know if you saw something.
No, I didn't. It might be some debris on the track, something like that, a little.
Most likely.
Something that the stewards couldn't see, or it was hard to see. this happens. One important thing, Carlos, is that we'll have all the cars together in this session. So we have, because we have only 10 cars in the sprint challenge overall, so the 10 cars are together in this session, which makes sense because, for example, it wouldn't make sense for the car number 5, which is Marcelo Tomassoni and Gerson Campos, which are the only drivers in the main sprint challenge category competing, to have the track just for them, to do to do their time. So it makes sense. So it's a longer session, but with all the drivers competing for the best time. But this, remember, is Group A. So these are the regular sprint challenge drivers. Then we'll have the guests.
Yeah, and some interesting guests. You talked about Gerson Campos, but also Márcio Mauro, that is very experienced in this series. Fábio Carboni, that is one of the most known driver coaches in Brazil. Matheus Roque, that is from the Sprint Trophy Championship. He will be partnering Paulo Totaro, that is back to the grid. Always nice to see Paulo racing in Porsche Brazil. Apart from Danilo Girani, that is the partner of Célio Brasil, but anyway, we'll have to wait and see if he will be able to hit the track. Pietro Rimbano, also a driver from the Stock Series Championship, former Stock Light category. So an interesting roster of drivers also in the Sprint Challenge Endurance Series round at Interlagos. Talking now about the regular drivers, Marcelo Tomassoni, that is one of the most accomplished drivers of the Sprint Challenge Championship overall, both in the Endurance Series and in the Sprint Championship. That's why he's the only main class driver today. Ramon Alcaraz, also very experienced, Sadak Leite as well. And Eric Santos, also a driver, if I'm not wrong, that is racing in the Sprint Championship. So a nice roster of drivers. Giuliano Bertuccelli, that is a Sprint Trophy driver. So it's an interesting mix of drivers, and nice to see the guys from the Sprint Trophy Championship as well in this Sprint Challenge round of the Endurance Series at Interlagos.
Yeah, so far the fastest driver is Marcelo Tomassoni. Behind him, we have number 14 is being driven by Luiz Landi. And then in third place, we have Ramon Alcaraz. That's the result so far, the top three. And then we have number 66 of Sadak Leite in fourth place, and Paulo Totaro with number 45 in fifth place. We still have 4 minutes to go, a little bit over 4 minutes to go. Let's see what happens. The clock stopped there, but anyway, it will eventually run down. And that's interesting. That's Luiz Landi again. We have the details for Luiz Landi.
And another nice livery.
Yeah. I was thinking if I like it or not, Carlos.
I like it because of the colors.
Yeah, I thought it catches the attention, I would say. And then I was in doubt. Do I like this or do I not like this? But it's interesting.
What's your conclusion?
I agree. No, I don't know if I conclude, but I agree. The colors caught my attention. For sure. It caught my attention.
This contrast of blue and red, even though we have that white stripe in the middle of the car, it's nice. I liked it. But the most important thing is the lap time.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's doing so far, good so far. He's second overall among the, of course, Sprint Challenge drivers. There we have Ramon Alcaraz. Let's see if he improves his time. He's third so far. See if he gets a better time. No, so far he stays in third. Actually, Márcio Mauro is third. Oh no, I have here Márcio Mauro in third in the live timing. So let's see.
Yeah,
anyway,
for me as well.
Márcio Mauro, right? Because there we have first Ramon Alcaraz, number 55. Yes, we have Ramon Alcaraz on your screen. Is the first name there. The first, but in the live timing, it appears Márcio Mauro.
Yeah, so theoretically, Márcio Mauro driving in this moment.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's Márcio Mauro because of the live timing. Usually I follow this more, but And then car number 45 is being driven by Paulo Totaro. He's 6th overall up to this point. And we have there the 10 cars for the Sprint Challenge group that's going to race tomorrow. Again, 3:30 Brazilian time this Saturday, the 13th of May. You'll be able to watch here with us the race of the first endurance race of 2023 for the Porsche Cup Brazil. So be sure to tune in. I guarantee it will be an interesting race. It always is. I never saw one endurance race that was not interesting in the Porsche Cup Brazil. There is always something happening. They are changing positions. So it will be very interesting with new rules for the pit stop. So that to make interesting because they have after laps, I believe first lap 17. I will know for sure tomorrow, but there are three certain number of laps, the lap number, that after this lap starts, all drivers will have 8 minutes to stop. And the pit stop is 6 minutes, but they have an 8-minute window to make their stop. So that to make lots of cars going together to the pits, and that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, in a specific pit window, actually. So it will be interesting to see because probably we will have a lot of cars parked in the pit lane due to the 6-minute pit stop that is mandatory, of course, because of the driver changes and so on. Yeah, it will be nice to see. I didn't see who was leaving a car there, but the clock is ticking and now it's time to check the lap times. Tomazoni way ahead, Sergio.
Yes, which is kind of expected, right? Because he's in the main challenge category. These are the regular drivers. So I think surprises usually come with the guest drivers because the difference between the guest drivers' skills might be somewhat big because we have guest drivers. For example, in this group we have Ricardo Mauricio, who is racing with the car number 55. No, actually not 55, but Ricardo Mauricio is among this group, isn't he? Or no, he's not actually.
He is the partner of Ayman Darvic, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, he's before. He was in the NASCAR in the Carrera Cup. So I'm mistaken. The sport class of the Carrera Cup. So I'm mistaken. But anyway, they have different levels. Usually the regular guys, they have about the same level.
Yeah, but anyway, interesting result there for Lange and Salman, for example, ahead of Sadaki Leite. Theoretically, the guys from the sport class with the yellow tag there should be right behind Marcelo Tomazoni. But as you said, we can expect bigger gaps with the guest drivers, even though we have some good names in this driver roster. I mentioned Fabio Carboni, Pietro Himbano, Danilo Girani. Let's see if Girani will be able to compete, but I would highlight Himbano and Carboni as the most competitive drivers of these guest ones. But anyway, Márcio Mauro, that has raced a lot in Porsche Brazil as well. And I'm very curious to see Matheus Roque, that is one of the drivers of the Porsche Sprint Trophy that uses the old 991-1 cars that have been retired in the Sprint Challenge Championship in the beginning of last year, if I'm not wrong. So it will be a good race, especially the race, but also the qualifying session, to see if they are already in a good level of performance and especially consistency after 2 rounds of the Porsche Sprint Trophy Championship that is new to the series, now using the old retired cars from the Sprint Challenge Championship. Just to explain, we had until the end of 2021, if I'm not wrong, the 991-2 cars for the Carrera Cup Championship, the 991-1 cars for the Sprint Challenge Championship, and then from the beginning of last year, we have 992 cars for Carrera Cup and 991-2 for the Sprint Challenge Cup, the Sprint Challenge Championship, sorry. And now these 991-1 cars are used by the Sprint Trophy category, that is the school category of Porsche Cup Brazil.
Yes, exactly. That's a very interesting. We don't have the broadcast in English, but you're very welcome to watch it in Portuguese with us. But that's very interesting. It's a category that Porsche Cup Brazil created to develop new drivers. I was getting the information because I didn't want to say the wrong laps, but the 8 minute window for the mandatory pit stop for the 3 mandatory pit stops during the race, the window will start at laps 17, 34, and 52. So after lap 17 starts, drivers will have 8 minutes to make their first mandatory pit stop. Then after lap 34, they have 8 minutes for the second mandatory pit stop. And after lap 52, they will have the third mandatory pit stop. And it's interesting because being two drivers, Carlos, you can choose, for example, one driver to do the first two stints and the second driver do the other two stints. We can choose one driver, driver A, driver B, driver A, and driver B, or driver A, driver B, and then driver A. So you can choose what to do in terms of strategy, considering the drivers. But anyway, the drivers will probably have a similar time inside the car competing, because the drivers with higher BOP, or the best drivers, at least that they are considered the best drivers, they will only be able to compete a max of 36 laps. So that will make, as the race is scheduled to 70 laps, that will make the 300 kilometers. So, they pretty much will be able to race it to be half the race for one driver, half the race to the other.
Yeah, and I think that's good. That's fair because, for example, it's not the case with these regular drivers, but the regulations, they have to be strict because let's put it this way. The following example: if a bad driver like myself, I can call Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton to be my guest driver. And if they don't have a limit of laps, it doesn't get that fair. So it's a good change of regulations there. And we also have the stages, the segments that awards points. So it's a very interesting format for this Endurance Series Championship that is making its first round at Interlagos. We will have the final one at Interlagos as well. This first one, 300 kilometers race, probably the last one, as usual, will be the 500 kilometers race. And in between, we have one more round. But anyway, a good explanations of the regulations of the weekend, and that just shows how important also the weather forecast will be, because sometimes you have driver duel that in which one driver experience in the wet and the other hasn't that much. So you have to be very intelligent in terms of strategy, in terms of changing drivers, especially if there is rain or anything like that.
That's Marcelo Tomazzoni. That's the highlight of his performance during the Group A for the Sprint Challenge qualifying. Number 45 was being driven by Paulo Totaro. Of course, now we are waiting for the track to be cleared, and we have Group B for the Sprint Challenge category. And I believe Renata is calling.
Eu tô aqui com o Marcelo Tomazzoni, porque o Gerson Campos já tá dentro do carro. Como é que tá sendo essa troca de vocês, Marcelo? Ainda mais começando o final de semana tão bem assim.
Legal, o Gerson é um cara super bacana. Ontem a gente tentou um ajuste de carro, deu tudo errado. A gente foi para a classificação com outro carro e deu super certo. Então agora o trabalho está feito, ele vai lá se divertir, vai tranquilo. Se ele virar uns 39,2, 39,5, acho que a pole é nossa.
Você tá sabendo que ele tá quase virando pai de novo? Ele tá nervoso com isso ou não?
Tá muito, ele entra cada hora no celular tomando bronca da esposa para voltar para casa mais cedo. Mas ele tá aí, tá animado também, mas o filho nascer, vamos ver se a gente ganha pro filho nele que tá chegando.
E o mais legal, você trocando toda essa experiência, toda a experiência que você já tem aqui, você passando para ele, né, Marcelo?
Tá sendo um final de semana divertido. Normalmente eu que recebo as experiências, né? Dessa a gente tá podendo dar um pouquinho do que a gente aprendeu nesse tempo todo e tá bacana. Vamos ver. Encaixou a minha volta, agora vamos ver a volta dele, vamos ver se a pole sai.
Trabalho em dupla por aqui.
Fala pro Thiago torcer por mim ali, ele torce muito por Ubatã.
Ele tá rindo lá.
Yeah, we heard there from the pace setter so far, Marcelo Tomazzoni, the only driver of the main sprint challenge class in this qualifying session. He is being partnered with Gerson Campos, a journalist that is also a driver, and he was
Ele tem
talking about the
recadinho aqui,
fact
ó.
that
Torce
they
pra mim,
had
pelo
to
menos o
change
Luke
the
Monteiro,
setup
né?
of the
O
car.
Thiago não adianta, já tá comprado pelo outro, mas Luke, vamos junto. Um abraço, obrigado.
Vai ter que pagar um
a
jantar, vai ter que pagar um jantar. Valeu, Mar. Boa.
And now Marcelo Tomazzoni is joking with the Portuguese broadcasters of Porsche Brazil, Brazilians, of course, but broadcasting in Portuguese. Thiago Mendonça and Luque Monteiro. Marcelo Tomazzoni joked that Thiago is always cheering for Urubatán Jr., that is one of his rivals in the sprint championship. But Gerson Campos is now
Podia ir de
with
carona, né?
Renato
Mas não, só vem
Diniz.
dar uma
Let's hear
passadinha
from
aqui antes
him.
do quali mesmo. Gerson, eu quero saber se você tá mais tenso pro quali ou pro Pietro que tá chegando.
Olha, o Pietro não chegou até agora, não desgruda do celular, mas eu acho que ele vai esperar o domingo, almoço de Dia das Mães, para chegar na segunda-feira. Não chegou até agora, então eu acho que ele tá lá de olho em tudo, acompanhando a gente aí. Um beijo, filho. Espera um pouquinho o papai classificar, que daqui a pouco a gente já tá junto, tá?
Tá animado pra esse quali, Gerson?
Animadíssimo, a categoria é fantástica, o carro é incrível de dirigir e o que a gente encontra aqui de equalização entre os pilotos, entre os carros é impressionante. Então, o número de informações que a gente tem, que a engenharia nos dá, é algo super profissional e realmente eu nunca vi nada parecido no automobilismo brasileiro. Então, é a minha primeira vez classificando aqui, né? O meu parceiro Tomazzoni é um cara bem experiente, bem legal, me deu muitas informações. Então agora chegou minha hora de fazer a volta combinada aí, vamos torcer.
Boa, ele falou que ontem o carro não estava tão encaixado, mas que hoje encaixou.
Agora ele conseguiu uma volta aí já mais ou menos meio segundo mais rápido do que ontem, né? A gente pode mexer aqui nas barras de dureza, então a gente achou um acerto diferente para testar e acho que esse é o caminho.
Show de bola, a gente vai ficar acompanhando daqui e o Pietro também na barriga da mamãe. Valeu, Gerson.
Mamãe Natália, né? Um beijo, amor.
É, mamãe que tá segurando a onda aí, só assistindo. Luque.
Yeah, Gerson Campos, that is quite close to becoming a father once more. His wife is pregnant, quite close to giving birth to Pietro. That is the name of Gerson's next kid. And of course, he is in a very good, big expectation for this, but he was talking about one of the factors that Marcelo Tomazzoni also mentioned, that is the setup of the car. They were able to change setup from yesterday's qualifying, actually practice sessions, and now with this new setup, they were able to extract more from the car in terms of performance. As Gerson said, Marcelo Tomazzoni was able to be half a second faster today in this qualifying session. So let's wait and see. And also, Gerson was highlighting Marcelo because of the knowledge that he's giving to his guest driver, and Marcelo was joking that this weekend is a bit different for him because usually he gets knowledge from someone, and now he's passing his knowledge to Gerson Campos.
We saw there Matheus Roque going to prepare himself to go to the track. Ahead of the pack here, we have Fabio Carboni. Fabio Carboni, who partners with Sadak Leite. So soon we have Group B for the sprint challenge, and then we'll find out who is going to be the pole position for the sprint challenge. Of course, they all start the race together. So sprint challenge and Carrera Cup, they race together as one race, but chances, right, Carlos, of a sprint challenge car winning are slim, but it's not impossible. Who knows? Whatever can happen during racing. The detail now is to Pietro Rimpano. They are in the car number 44. He partners with Giuliano Bertuccelli. Waiting for the green flag there. All the cars are pretty much there. We can count, 8 cars, Carlos? 3, 6, 8 cars are there. 8 Porsches are there. So there are 2 more, except for the Porsche of Célio Brasil, that I don't think they'll be able to hit the track. But who knows? Porsche Brazil is very, very organized. They have reserve cars. I don't know if it's the case like that. If there is a mechanical problem, all drivers have the right to a reserve car, even though it's rare, very rare to have a mechanical problem. but if it's due to an accident, usually they don't have, at least during the race, they don't have a car to be substituted. If it's during the qualifying, they might have it substituted.
Yeah, the spare car is used when there's a problem, a mechanical problem with the setup of the car or anything like that. So the category provides the spare car, but that's not the case, even though it wasn't necessarily Série Brasil's fault with that puncture. But anyway, you explained very well how the rules work, and let's hope that tomorrow we won't see any spare cars in the 300-kilometer race. And as you said, the reliability of these Porsche cars, they are very, very big. So it's very rare to see a reserve or a spare car.
So the Sprint Challenge cars are on the track. This is the last qualifying session for today. We'll find out who of them will start first tomorrow in their category. Remembering, race, it's at 3:30 p.m. this Saturday, May the 13th. And we'll be able to watch here at the Porsche Cup Brazil YouTube channel. We have always this English stream. If you don't understand Portuguese, you can follow it with us here with Mr. Dolago and Carlos Costa. It's 3:30 p.m. Brazilian time, 2:30 p.m. US Eastern time, or 7:30 p.m. GMT. It will be a 300 kilometers race or 2 hours and a half, whichever comes first. Probably we'll have the 300 kilometers. It will be 70 laps. So if the weather is good, at least that's our expectation. It's very rare, right, Carlos, to end these endurance races in Brazil by time. Usually they end by their distance, unless there is really, really bad weather.
Yeah, as it was the case in the final round last year, but usually, as you said, it's not because of the race time, and the expectation is the same for tomorrow. Even though we had that big cloud earlier today, we see that the sun is already shining once more, and as I said, for 3 p.m. More or less tomorrow, the chances of raining, according to the weather forecast, are around 1%. So in theory, that won't be a problem, rain or anything like that. But we all know how São Paulo is crazy, and you talked a lot about that as already, Sergio.
Overall pole position, we already know who is going to be. Marcel Miller and Enzo Elias, Porsche number 544 of the main Carrera Cup class. So these guys will start ahead of the pack, and a very interesting team that's formed by last year's champion and runner-up of the Porsche Cup Sprint Championship. So they proved to be a very strong duo, but not all is guaranteed. We have very strong drivers, and you know, a race is a race. Many things can happen, and also as the green flag always in Interlagos, it's a very interesting moment with that turn to the left on the S of Senna.
Yeah, the first leg of the S there is always tricky, especially when we have a lot of cars. And that's the case this weekend. More than 30 cars, 36 if I'm not wrong. And of course, we expect a clean race start, but obviously an exciting race start as well. But the middle of the pack there is always a very dangerous position for the drivers and the cars, because you're talking about a lot of people. And the first leg that we see on the screen in this very moment, it isn't that wide, even though you have a good runoff area there. But anyway, the race tends to be very good. We have a good qualifying session that is actually still happening. The final segment of all that we had today. A good one, competitive one, especially considering the Carrera Cup qualifying session, but let's wait and see what happens now with the guest drivers of the Sprint Challenge Championship. But the main expectation, obviously, is for tomorrow's race, 3:30 p.m. Brazilian time, as you said. And we can say, with no doubt, that this track will be very crowded, especially above of the pit lane or the paddock there, always with a lot of people, apart from the stands in front of the main straight. So the expectation is quite good, and I think it's worthy to remember different times for the US or even Europe once more, Sergio?
Yes, it's 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, US Eastern Time, or 7:30 p.m. GMT. So these are the times overall for this race this Saturday, May the 13th. So far, the fastest driver among Group B has been Gerson Campos, car number 5, which pretty much puts car number 5 in the pole position, even though now, wow, what a difference there in the car number 66, Fabio Carboni set up a really fast time, and the Gerson Campos stay behind, but he's still there, 1:38, 6:39. He's not that far behind Fabio Carboni. The drivers are the second drivers there that are competing. The number 133 is driver Rafael Martins. He's the second fastest so far. In third, we have Bruno Bonifacio, Carlos. And it's changing all the time. So we still have over almost 6 minutes to go. So these times will sure change. And we see that car number 139, as we predicted, is not on the track. So Danilo Dirani won't be able to even go into the car to try get some good time.
Yeah, that's a shame because Danilo Gireni is also one of the most well-known driver coaches in Brazil, apart from his experience in racing series, not just in our country, but also abroad. If I'm not wrong, he has recently raced in the Copa Truck Championship, but anyway, that's a shame, but they have the chance to climb the pack tomorrow, starting from the back of the grid, but if they have a good pace or something like that, the good thing is that they will be able to have a fun race in this 300-kilometer Interlagos race that we'll have this Saturday. But anyway, nice layout, this one livery actually with the shark there, and a new leader in this moment.
Yeah, number 133, it's him, it's Rafael Martins. He's the fastest. Fabio Carboni is the second fastest. And in third, we have Pietro Rimbano in the Porsche number 444. Gerson Campos is in fourth with 1:38.303. It's about 0.8 of a second behind the fastest car in this group. I think still enough for a pole position for car number 5, but it's getting close.
Yeah, I think still enough, but we will have to wait and see the maths of the average there. But in Tomazoni's interview, he was saying that a time between 1:38.2.
Só aproveitar que encontrei com o Paulo Totaro, estava desaparecido aqui, fiquei te procurando um tempão. Estamos muito felizes que você está de volta, Totaro. Ai, que emoção.
Assim, eu também estou muito feliz por esse ambiente, pelas pessoas assim como você, pelo Denner, pelos amigos que eu fiz aqui, e espero aguentar pelo menos esse ano aqui para fazer com o Matheus. Tem uma curiosidade que vocês não sabem. Quando eu sofri o acidente, o Matheus que ajudou a me resgatar e foi comigo na ambulância até o hospital. Então ele me convidou, eu não podia fugir do convite. Tem que correr com o Matheus e tenho que dar esse pódio para ele.
Muito bem, Totaro. A gente fica emocionado também, a gente sentiu muito a sua falta. Você sabe quanto te pentelhei no WhatsApp? Volta, Totaro, todo mundo pedindo, mandando nas redes sociais. Então a gente está muito feliz. Ainda mais uma causa como essa, você junto com o Dr. Matheus. Enfim, vai ser demais, vai ser incrível.
Obrigado de coração. Renatinha, você sabe, hoje eu estava lembrando, o primeiro dia de trabalho teu aqui foi lá no Velocitar e eu te levei dar uma volta, pedi pro Denner, lembra?
É verdade.
Aí eu falei, você conhece carro de corrida? Aí tu pedi pro Denner, o Denner deixou eu te levar dar uma volta. Então eu fico feliz que você está hoje, até hoje aqui, e fazendo esse sucesso que você faz.
Obrigada, Totaro. Obrigado. O sucesso é nosso, uma família. Obrigada, querido. É isso aí, Luque.
Yeah, an emotional interview there with Paulo Totaro, a very well-known face in the Porsche Brazil paddocks, has raced a lot of times in this category, this series. Actually, he had an accident earlier this year, so he was missing some of the rounds. I don't remember actually if it was earlier this year or in the last year, but anyway, he has missed some of the events of Porsche Brazil. Now recovered, and of course, will be racing the Endurance Series Championship this 2023, and alongside Matheus Roque, that was actually one of the guys that was in his rescue team, if you can say so. We were highlighting Matheus Roque because of his job in the sprint trophy, but now alongside Paulo Totaro. So a very nice duo of drivers in this endurance series round at Interlagos. And of course, Paulo Totaro was in a very emotional mood there, talking with Renata Diniz, remembering actually their moments in this championship. And it's always very nice to see such a likable person such as Paulo Totaro back to the grid, and we expect him to have a good race. And he says that his challenge is to have a good pace and good enough to bring the podium for both Matheus and himself as well.
Yeah, the accident I was checking here, Carlos, it was last year during the preseason. That's when he had his accident.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Yeah, so anyway, but he's back, and we are glad to see him back. It shows lots of strength, to put the race together there. We have so far ahead car number 133 with Rafael Martins, 137.596. It's a very good time. And then we have Pietro Rimbano in second. In third, we have Fabio Carboni. In fourth, we have Bruno Bonifacio. And then in fifth, we have Gerson Campos. Let's wait and see if Gerson Campos is going to be able to guarantee the pole position for car number 5, as his partner Marcelo Tomassoni was the fastest during Group A. So we have to wait. Let's check. It's not certain. Might not happen. And we gotta see. Let's see who is going to celebrate, Carlos.
Yeah, that's always a good tip, but I believe that it will be Tomassoni, but of course the math of the average is a bit complex. We cannot do that right now while we do the broadcast. But anyway, a competitive qualifying session in the Sprint Challenge 1, compared especially with the Carrera Cup qualifying session, as we see Marcelo Tomassoni now already smiling.
Yeah, he was anxious. Now I think he's still waiting there.
I think he's waiting to celebrate with Gerson. That's it.
Okay, yeah. So they got the pole position. Good work by Gerson. And there goes Marcelo Tomassoni. We'll give him the good news. So that's it. Marcelo Tomassoni and Gerson Campos will start ahead in the Sprint Challenge. Good work by this duo. They are the only car competing in the main Sprint Challenge category. But anyway, it was not easy, Carlos, because Tomassoni, of course, he's the regular. He did his part, but Gerson is not as experienced as Marcelo Tomassoni. He said so. Even Tomassoni said during his interview, you translated it, that usually he has a driver who has more experience than he does. This time he is giving his experience to his partner. He's showing his partners how to do, what to do, and so that's very interesting situation.
Não, e eu já tô aqui. Tira o capacete pra gente poder falar. Eu sempre fico nessa dinâmica, um sem capacete, um com capacete pedindo pra tirar pra poder entrevistá-los. Agora vai.
And we will hear from them with our pit reporter Renata Diniz. Both Gerson Campos and Marcelo Tomassoni celebrating a lot, and rightfully doing so.
Luke, agora vai. Cara, o mais legal é descer do carro sem saber e receber a notícia aqui.
Sem saber, eu acho que
Eu vi ali os tempos, eu tava achando que tava legal pela comparação, mas esse cara aqui é o mestre. O que ele me ensinou nesse final de semana aqui é impressionante. Eu não conhecia nada conhecia muito pouco do carro, né, como a gente falou. Esse carro, galera, vocês estão vendo em casa, é o sonho de todo piloto. É um carro que faz, não digo que ele faz tudo sozinho, porque a nossa responsabilidade é enorme, mas ele permite um nível de precisão de você achar o seu traçado com um pneu novo, que é um negócio fantástico. Essa é pra você, filho, Pietro! Te amo, Natália e Luca também, né, meu amor?
Muito bom, estrear assim é muito bom, hein, Jair?
Demais. Então, estamos animados aí amanhã, são 3 horas de corrida. É claro que aqui a gente não ganhou nada, né? Nem ponto a gente fez. Mas é muito importante, quanto mais você larga para frente numa Endurance, você foge da confusão. Mas amanhã a gente já está bem combinado aqui, de ser tranquilo na largada, e acho que a galera vai ver um show legal aí.
É isso. Agora eu quero a cabeça do Marcelo Tomazoni já pensando aqui, arquitetando como vai ser essa estratégia.
Bom, o primeiro passo foi dado e agora montar a estratégia para amanhã, 3 horas de corrida é uma coisa que a gente vai montar hoje à noite. E é isso, estou muito feliz, Gerson acelerou muito, mandou bem, tudo que a gente passou e repassou, ele fez perfeitamente. Muito feliz, parabéns.
É isso, parabéns meninos, o final de semana só está começando. Com vocês aí, Luque.
Yeah, nice chat there with Gerson and Marcelo. They are celebrating once more. Gerson was dedicating this pole position for his new kid, Pietro, that will be born shortly. Of course, highlighting the car, how good the car is in order to allow the driver to be very accurate in terms of hitting the apex, that kind of stuff. So it just gives the opportunity for the driver to really perform, because it's a very well equipped car in terms of power as well, but also in terms of tires. He was highlighting the fact that with the new set of tires, you can extract a lot from the car, and also calling Marcelo his master, if you can say so, because of course Marcelo
eu já tô sentindo uns pinguinhos agora, não tô
to,
brincando. Vocês falaram alguma coisa de chuva, já
Gerson
estou
Campos.
sentindo uns pingos caindo do céu. Bom, se bem que até amanhã tudo pode acontecer, né? Mas, certeza.
Very slight rain in this moment, Sérgio. So we had luck.
Valeu, até amanhã.
And what a beautiful aerial view.
Só dando tchau mesmo.
We leave you with of Interlagos, which means Interlakes, in the heart of the city of São Paulo. Porsche number 544, Marcel Miller and Enzo Elias, last year's champion and championship runner of the Porsche Sprint Championship, will start ahead of the pack in the race this Saturday, May the 13th at 3:30 p.m. Brazilian time, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, and it will be a great race. I guarantee you it will be 7:30 p.m. the start GMT if you are in Europe, or if you want a reference time. That is the car that will start ahead of the pack, the car of Marcel Miller and Enzo Elias. Both did a great work. Marcel Miller was the fastest in the Group A, and then Enzo Elias was 6th in the Group B. Fastest driver was Caio Collet overall. Great work by Caio Collet, who represents Brazil in the Formula 3 Championship. One of the drivers who represent Brazil in the Formula 3 Championship. With that, we leave you. Thank you very much for being with us here at Porsche Cup Brazil English transmission. Thank you very much and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.